Hello, my name is Carl and you're watching a softbox. When it comes to softboxes, how big is big enough? In this video I will specifically be talking about softboxes in the use case of smaller home studios as my own, sitting talking in front of the camera as I do now. Is it worth getting a larger softbox, or is your money better spent elsewhere? Hopefully we'll have the answer by the end of this video. Before we get into the pros, cons and comparisons, let's just quickly go over why you would even want to use a softbox in the first place, starting with the technical stuff, but it's a really simple concept, so just stick with me here for a minute. You see, the larger a light source is in relation to where it's hitting, the softer the shadows are going to become. The sun, of course, being a super bright light source, but since it's so far away, it's basically just a tiny point for us in the sky, creating super hard shadows on a sunny day, but on a cloudy day, that light gets diffused through the clouds, creating soft shadows, which is pretty much the same that is happening with our light source here and the softbox. The drawback here being that when light gets diffused, it also gets weaker from splitting up. So a light source with more output might be required when using larger softboxes. And finally, the reason you want to use a softbox is that soft shadows gives you a more pleasing and even look, especially in the face compared to hard shadows, which tends to accentuate pores and imperfections more, giving you a harsher look. My smaller softbox is 30 inches wide and the larger one is 55, so almost twice the width, but is it really worth it? A larger softbox is not only more expensive but usually heavier, so a sturdier light stand can be required, and since it of course takes up more space, it can be a real pain when storing it, which has been the biggest pain for me since I acquired this one. It is also harder to transport unless you're willing to disassemble and assemble it every time, but since this video is mainly focusing on the usage in a home studio, I won't deduct any points for that. But it is still something to keep in mind if you're thinking about getting a larger softbox. And now for the part that you have all been waiting for, the comparison test. In the first test, I want to show you the difference in shadow quality when sitting about 1 meter versus 2 meters away from the softbox, and then we're going to take a look at how the exposure differs when using the smaller versus the larger softbox with the LED light at 100%. As I hope you could tell, the test confirms what I talked about earlier in the video, that a bigger light source means softer shadows but less brightness. I will have to admit though that the difference was not big enough to make me want to get one this large if I were to get one today, but it was still big enough that I don't want to get rid of this one, because I still very much prefer the look from the larger softbox. So if I were to buy a softbox today, I would probably go for something in between these two. Before we wrap this up, I just want to quickly mention that softboxes aren't the only way to diffuse light. There's also lanterns, umbrellas and diffusion fabric, for example. And you can also bounce the light against a large bright surface like a white wall. You should also know that in the same way lenses have different mounts, so do light modifiers such as softboxes. The absolutely most common one when it comes to consumer lights is called Bowens, but some manufacturers have proprietary mounts. So if you are looking to buy a light modifier, make sure it is compatible with your light source. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask down in the comments. I'm no expert on anything on lights, but I would be happy to share what little I have gathered. And with that, I want to wish you a nice day and hope to see you in the next video. Peace out! Some manufacturers have proprietary